Okay, we're recording. So when you guys ask a question, I'll try to repeat the question so that it gets on the recording also. Sometimes I'm overmodulated, so you may have to turn your volume down on the recording, but better to be overmodulated than leave you trying to listen. So, does everyone use Apple Mail, or do they use a browser to go check your mail? Who uses a browser to check the mail? Like, you guys, you had a PC, right? Do you primarily use your iPad to check your mail?
I have two. I have my junk mail on my PC.
Got it. Okay. So using your iPad. So the difference is, and let's talk about how mail works first. Everybody says, well, does my mail sync? Well, it really doesn't. And everybody's intimidated about this new iCloud and cloud computing. But we've all been using the cloud since the very first time we checked our email. And the way that works, let's just pick an email service. Let's take Gmail. So somewhere in Mountain View or other places, there's this computer sitting there, which is where your email goes to. Now, let's turn this into more like your local post office. So, if the post office worked a little differently, you would have your home address where your mail comes, but you'd also have a little box at the post office so you could go into the post office with that same address. I'm not talking about a P.O. box. So let's pretend you could walk into the post office and look at what mail you have, or you can have it delivered to your house, and how this equates to email. If I go to the post office and look in the box, I can throw away the junk mail ads, and the postman will never deliver it to my house, right? Because it's not there any longer. Going to the post office and looking in there is the equivalent of going into a browser and typing Comcast.net or Yahoo Mail and going in. You're looking directly at that server. You're at the post office looking at the mail you have. So if you deleted it at that time, it probably never came home to you. But on our iPad, our iOS device, and our computer, we use a thing called a mail client. M-A-I-L. Apple Mail for the Mac. On the iPad, it's the little envelope. On the Mac, it's the postage stamp. And what that does is, it goes out and says, give me a copy of every mail that's in my box at the post office. It brings me a copy. Because if I have an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac, every one of those devices gets its own copy. And after a certain length of time, sometimes it's set to then delete it from the post office once something got it. A lot of times it's after 30 days. If it's on Gmail, it never deletes. Because that way your post office box doesn't get too full. A lot of the free emails, the Yahoos, the Comcast, limit you to the size. So you want it to occasionally delete it, but it won't delete it until your mail client has downloaded it. So again, it's this computer, it's like the post office, you're bringing down copies of it. So then comes up, well, Ken, I deleted on my Mac, and it doesn't delete it from my phone, and it doesn't delete it from my iPad. Well, that's because you're probably using an email service that is from your internet provider. And it uses a protocol that's geeky. It just calls POP, P-O-P, which stands for Post Office Protocol. Kind of ties in with this whole thing. What that means is if I get the blue dot and I check it here, it's a blue dot on my phone and my iPad and my other Mac. They don't coincide. There's not a two-way street. I'm only getting a copy of the mail. At the time I got it, it had never been read. Post Office Protocol worked fine when we all had one computer and one device. No one in this room only has one device. I have a sickness. I have multiple devices. Hi, my name's Ken, and I always tell people what Mac Nexus is. It's our 12-step program for Mac users, is Mac Nexus. So there's a second type of mail protocol called IMAP. Capital I, capital M, capital A, capital P, and it's Internet Message Access Protocol. Woo! It must be great, right? It's got a long name. All it means is, if I check my mail on my iPad, or forward it, or reply, it will show up on my other devices the same way. And, for the most part, if I delete it on my iPhone, it deletes it everywhere else. But now, Ken just said if I delete it there. That's fine to delete it on your iPhone and your iPad, your iOS device, but you don't need to on those devices. Because what happens on your iOS device is, hang on here, if your iPhone, your iOS device is designed to only bring in your 50 most recent messages from each account. You can have multiple accounts on the device, but it'll only bring in the 50 most recent. So that's why if I scroll down to the bottom, it says load more messages. Oops. Yeah, really, it does. I'm having internet demo fail. Hang on. There we go. Hang on. All right. Oh. All right. Sorry about that. It's we're asking it to do a lot here. I'm actually portraying my iPad on my Mac wirelessly through the screen. So if I go to Mail and I scroll to the bottom, it says load more messages. I have a few accounts on here. Oh, no, notice my number's 94. That's my unread number, which means I probably have 2 accounts. It's checking 2 accounts. I'm getting 50 of the most recent messages from both accounts. So if I delete a message, let's just, let's see. Those won't. So if I delete a message, it's just going to bring an older one in behind, because it's always going to have the 50 most recent messages. So don't worry about deleting them on your iPhone or your iPad. You'll get nowhere unless your big server has no mail left on it. These days, like with Gmail, you leave your mail on the server. Okay? You leave it on the server because they give you 10 gigabytes of storage space. And while I used to think I was a hoarder until I watched these shows, I'm feeling a little more normal. My feeling is, if I delete a mail, I know I'm going to need it right after I delete it. And many times you want to go, now obviously ads and things like that, but you know what? I let the ad, it's kind of like people get personally upset. My mom, just an example, she's fairly new to this. She's 88 years old. She's got an iPad. She never used a computer. But she's upset that she gets this thing about, does she want to date this Russian girl? And it's a personal affront to her. I asked to see the picture. Which was probably sent from a guy, by the way. It's just like getting junk mail in your post office. Yeah, it might tick you off. It uses a lot of resources. But you know what? Don't you just say, okay, throw it away if you don't want it. That's how you have to look at junk mail and spam. But if you use Gmail, you're likely to get less spam. And the reason for that is they're the largest email provider. So when that email goes out and it says, Russian Brides 2-for-1 special, it sees 30,000 of those. And it says, well, you know what? That's probably spam. So they key it as spam, and you probably never see it. It sits in your spam folder. So it's a great reason to use Gmail. Gmail's free. And Gmail is iMac. So it syncs with all your devices. And their ads are really minimal. Those of you, and you guys missed yesterday, but AT&T is telling everybody they have to change their settings, and Barb, who's very techie, knows what she's doing. She can't send out from her AT&T right now. I had a client that was here yesterday that she had to buy a new Mac because AT&T was changing their settings, and on June 10th, she all of a sudden couldn't. She could receive her mail, but she couldn't send out. Well, yeah, and that's what they told her on the phone and she was even using the browser to check it. She had 10.2 on this old lampshade iMac, and even through Firefox, she couldn't check her mail because AT&T was bringing you better email. AT&T has this partnership with Yahoo, and that's Yahoo. I mean, I don't know how it is, but look, don't be held captive to your internet service provider by using their email. I'm not saying you have to get rid of the one you have. Just start weaning yourself from it. Because if next week Bob and Joe's... Well, Google, first of all, right now, forget that I'm saying anything about Gmail, but Google, as an internet provider, is providing 1 gigabyte internet for the same price as what cable charges now in a couple cities in the Midwest. And they're going to start doing it more and more places. So if Bob and Joe's internet comes along and says, you know what, we're going to give you 3 times the speed you currently get for 1/3 of the price. Do you want to go with us? He says, well, I'd love to, but I don't want to give up that SBC email I've had forever. Transfer on to an email like Gmail and start weaning yourself off of it so you can make the change if you need to. Anyway, it's also for your advantage with multiple devices. AT&T doesn't offer it. SureWest, you have to jump through some hoops to get it, and Comcast doesn't offer iMac either. So, did I cover? Is everybody SureWest? Who's SureWest? Okay, you can get iMac on SureWest. AT&T SBC people. Okay. I like you. They don't, but I like you. And Comcast, fast internet. That's about it. So go to Gmail just for the iMac reason, but for all the other things I said. And I'm sorry, but AT&T is really just creating some problems. I don't know if it's AT&T or it's Yahoo. It's one of the two. And Yahoo's got a new CEO, and she's making some great changes. So I have a feeling that's kind of upset the apple cart. All right. By the way, first thing we're gonna cover is junk. I gotta be careful how I say that. We're gonna cover junk mail, and we're gonna do it on Apple Mail first. But I want to point out, we don't have a junk capability on the current operating system for our iOS device, but I saw a little thing that said on the iOS device that in iOS 7 that's coming out in the fall, we will have it filter our junk for us. Well, Ken, what's the junk folder? Well, if you look at my screen here, actually, let's do this other part first before I talk about junk. Does everybody have just icons up at the top? If it has icons with a word under, no, actually, I'm sorry, on the iOS device, this isn't an option. This is on Mac only, on this part. So, if I visited you, I've changed this to icon and text. So let's talk about Apple's logic here. Our eyes pick up color very well, right? So they made all of them gray, all the icons at the top. So how smart is that? Except for the flag, because it's got a red flag. So they also made it so these are icons you can't tell what they are. So they ship it this way, only in mountain line. So what I say is, if you haven't done it already, go up to the toolbar up here and control click, or we learned yesterday to 2-finger click, and come down and say icon and text. So now it's a little easier to see which one is my junk button. Yeah, it's only on the Mac. And hope in the next version of the iOS, I hope they leave the words. If not, we're going to have to enable it. Yes. I think I enabled it when I did a screen share with you, didn't I? Or no? Are you in Mail? No, that's okay. Yeah, you've already got it enabled. I think I had you do it on the phone. Because to me, it's useless without that. And I know what these icons, well, excuse me, I should know what these icons mean, and I look at them dumbfounded. So I guess Apple figured they'd have to charge you extra if they put text under it. Apple's minimalism sometimes, I think, gets them in trouble. So now the worst thing is, well, actually, we'll get to this when we go reply. So now, I have certain items here that are brown, right? Brown means that Apple thinks that's junk. Now, here's JCPenney Home, if you'll notice right here. Apple thinks it's junk. It's an ad from JCPenney. Now, it's made it through the spam filter, but it's come to here, and my mail thinks that it's junk. And I don't mind that, because if I enable junk filtering, which we're going to do in a minute, it will put it in the junk folder and it will never be in my inbox. And the best part is, when I go to the Apple Store at Arden Fair, and I know I'm going to go through JCPenney to go into the Apple Store, I go into my junk folder and see, hey, is there any JCPenney ad in there? So you can use your junk folder as a filter that can be effective. And in iOS, on the iPad and the iPhone, you're going to have junk coming up in iOS 7. And I believe that it will coincide. So I've told it it's junk, but let's look here. Sony Electronics. See, it's dark. I think it's junk. So wouldn't you just delete it? No, because you want to teach it that it's junk. So I click on Sony Electronics and I go up here and say make junk. And now it turns brown. Okay? Brown is junk. Now, let's say there was something in here and you got an email from somebody. I can't see any here that I want, but many times you'll get an email that's not junk and it'll be marked junk. So you need to teach it it's not junk. It learns. And the best part is, watch what will happen here. If I go up to my preferences and I say junk mail, move to junk mailbox. We're going to go into the preferences here in a second. I'm going to quit mail. And so, again, junk. I'm going through it a lot because I think it's super useful, but you have to teach it. It's artificial intelligence. So we're having a little bit of a slowness on the computer here. On the iPad, there's no junk, but there will be. Let me get rid of, oh boy, we're having all kinds of, I got lots of spinning beach balls. I should have restarted. So this is a good point case here. So everybody will notice how these things never mess up? They really don't. The Macs do. Okay, that's working. Wow, that's kind of... Ooh. So I'm going to go up here to the Apple logo and come down to force quit, and I'm going to see if anything's misbehaving, and it doesn't appear to. Mail was for a while, but I'm going to fire. Oh, mail still has not quit. So I think it's because I'm moving all that junk. I think it's because I had 62,000 messages in my mail. So let's excuse the demo fail, and I'll move on with this. So on your iOS device, I have a couple accounts on my iPad. So if I hit the mailbox tab in the upper left, you can see I have 3 of them actually. iCloud, this one I used for a special project I did, and then my Gmail account. So I have 3 accounts in there. I can tap on iCloud and just see my messages in my iCloud account, but I'd rather go back by tapping this, all inboxes, and then it's the aggregate of all my email inboxes. Okay. If it just, what's that? Do you only have one account?
I have actually 2.
Okay.
But you tap that, then it does show like draft, sentinel, spam.
Oh, okay. So down below farther, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's show that. Let me get mail came back up. It hasn't moved all my junk in for some reason, but we're going to visit that when we do preferences. And let's go back to reflection. So there we go, a little less noisy. So when you click on mailboxes up in the top, when I go down here, I have accounts. Now, since Gmail is IMAP, it allows me to peer into their server. So if I tap on my Gmail down there, that gives me my sent mail. It's another inbox, but this is the equivalent of going right into the post office and looking in your box and telling me what's there. So I'm reacting straight with that. You don't normally do this, but you can always do that if you want to see, well, what was sent or what's important on Gmail. Because remember I said Gmail has the best spam filter there is. If you go into here, you look at your spam to see if you have any spam, any false positives, because sometimes someone will send you something and you don't want them to be in your spam folder. And to fix that, you actually have to log into your Gmail online. Who here is using Gmail? Okay, I think we've got pretty good converts on most. So this is still working. So back to all inboxes. So when the old Apple Mail looked like this, and did anyone upgrade to Mountain Lion and upset on how the new look was? Does anybody have their set on the new look, or did you all get it changed to classic view? Does yours look like this with the messages on the side? Or here's how Mountain Lion ships it. Actually, I'm just going to work my way across the preferences. This will be best. So everybody on a Mac, and then we'll talk about preferences here. There's very few preferences to set here, which is nice. So go up to the word Mail, come down to Preferences. Click on General. Up to the word Mail, come down to Preferences. Not System Preferences, but Mail Preferences. So most of this is pretty self-explanatory. Well, a couple things of note. Where you want your downloads to go. Our downloads used to go to our desktop. Apple finally created a downloads folder, so when you download photos and things, they go to the downloads folder. But one thing I want to point out that's important, you probably don't have, unless I've worked on your mail, because I always click this as soon as I get there. When searching all mailboxes, you want it to include junk also, because what happens if you're expecting a mail from someone and it went to your junk folder and you go to search for it, you want it to search in your junk folder, so make sure you select junk on that. Okay, anybody don't have that on the first tab? Did I lose anybody? We're good? Okay. The next one is account. Oh, go ahead, Connie.
Well, on one of those, she has her Microsoft Outlook instead of
That's her default email.
so
Yeah, but if she wants to use that, that's fine. Yeah. So that's the default email reader. There's some other ones you can have. For her, she was already using Outlook. So the nice thing is Apple lets you use Outlook. There's a lot of people that might, for work, use Exchange Server. I don't think we have any people here using Exchange Server. So the next tab over is Accounts. We're not going to change anything on the first tab, Account Information, because it'll break something. Don't do it unless you want to pay me to fix it, and I'd rather have you not change it. But if we go over here to Mailbox Behaviors, don't deselect Store Draft Messages on Server if it's selected. Okay? Deselect it. Don't let it do it. Because what happens is sometimes you'll be making a message, and what it does every time you type a word, it stores it on the server, and you keep getting all these things. So there's no reason to store the draft messages on a server because you're going to build it here. You don't need it there. Okay? So delete that one. Store messages. Keep it unselected. Are you on the Accounts tab? And in the middle, Mailbox Behaviors?
how come when you do the draft, sometimes you type something out and send it, and it's one from the draft?
Did you have it selected?
I don't know.
On your other computer, it might be selected.
Yeah,
And that you were having trouble with that because there was a bunch of the drafts building up.
yeah.
I found it just creates more problem than anything, and there's very few times you would need it.
If I deselect it on my desktop.
Yeah, and I thought I did because I remember when you had trouble with that. So the next one is sent. So let's think about this a second. If I send a message from a device, like from a Mac, the sent message stays on the Mac itself, but we want to say put it on the server also if you ever need to go search it. It's not a huge deal, but that's kind of your own thing. And then the option is you won't have it on the iPad there. We've got a few other different settings. The iPad just says, oh, you don't need to adjust this. So when to delete it? Oh, well, never, 1 day old, 1 month old, or when quitting mail. So I wouldn't worry about that one. If you want to keep it on the server, that's fine. The next one is the junk folder. If you've put it in junk and it's on your machine, why the heck would you want to store it on the server? This may come into play when we have junk mail filtering on the iOS 7, but we're not sure. So I leave it deselected. The last one is move deleted messages to trash. Okay? So when you delete it, and this goes back to the fact of why I never really delete anything, but if I delete it and send it to the trash, then I also say permanently delete it after it's 1 month old, because otherwise my trash folder gets so big. Because I know a lot of people that they'll send it to the trash and then they go check their trash folder. Oh, I've got old stuff. Okay, I'll go delete it. Why waste that time? Just tell it once it's in the trash, if for some reason you trashed it and within 30 days you need to go access it, just let it delete it. Let it do the heavy lifting for you. Okay, you can change that to never. You can say when quitting mail, 1 week. Leave it at a month. You got plenty of room. That way, if, man, I deleted that. Of course, you know what will happen is after a month and 2 days, you'll go, I really needed that thing. But that's what Time Machine's for. All right, everybody pretty clear on that one?
We don't want to store the deleted messages on the server.
No. No need. So that's why I say only delete the ones you don't want. Keep the rest of them in here. They don't take up much room. They really don't take up much room at all.
And now what I'm doing here, it's not is this copied on my
No. Great question. So she has a second computer. She just got the MacBook Air. Is that being copied on the other computer? No. Mail with all the stuff in mail doesn't sync, and the mail itself doesn't sync. It might in Mavericks, we don't know, but you have to have the same settings on the other one. But it's not life or death whether you do or not, but I'm just saying it doesn't. Apps don't really sync. Preferences don't sync. We may get there with iCloud, we're hoping. Do not change anything under advanced. Okay? Hands off. This is very critical stuff that's very techy. So next we click on the junk mail. And you want, once you've taught it, it takes a month to 2, you can say, well, you always want to have enable junk mail filtering, but then you can say, move it to the junk mailbox, and it will create the junk mailbox for you. Think of junk as a secondary spam filter. Those that make it to you will then be filtered and work pretty well. Everything else under here, you don't have to worry about. Fonts and colors. This is where you can adjust the fonts if they're too small and you're not able to see the screen well. So you have the message list font. This is the message list, okay? So let's watch that as I change the font size to 18. See that? Okay? That's the first one, message list font. The next one is the message. Let's go to a text message here. There's a small amount of text on that, so I'm going to go here to select this, and we'll change that to 18 here. See, it went to 20. See how much bigger it got? I'm going to put it back down to 12. And then fixed width font, you can change that, but you won't get a lot of things that have that. That's just if they sent the email to you with a different font, you can raise it up if you want. So put it at 24. See, it didn't affect what we were doing there at all. So move it back to 11. The other thing is color quoted text. When you reply to someone, it usually makes it blue. That's what our first one is, okay? I'll show you what that means. If I reply to Barbara, oh, mine's black, hang on. We'll make it green for right now. Oh, I know what's happening. There, you notice how it's green now? I just leave it like it is, and we're going to do another setting that all that means is when you reply to someone, it's going to quote what was in their message. This applies to the iPad, the iPhone, everything. And that's really good because if you a lot of times these conversations become disjointed back and forth and you forget what you said 2 messages ago. So you want to quote them as you go down. Well, probably because you have something else off. So let me move on to, when I get to composing, we're going to see if things change a little. Because I don't like the part I'm going to show you in a second. So we're at colors and fonts. We've exhausted that. Now viewing. I have mine set to, go ahead.
One quick question. When you were changing the fonts, will that change all of the mail? Or is it just for that one piece of mail you want to read in bigger fonts?
No, it changes the setting for mail for everything. Okay? So this is how it ships. Very, very iPad looking. This is how it ships in Mountain Lion and Lion, okay? And sorry to have yours up there all the time, Barb. So you have your message list on the side in this, and then it's ironic, but look at how that looks compared to the iPad. This looks like this. So the whole idea is it ships looking very similar. Okay. Now your iPad mail looks like that. If you go portrait on your iPad, you don't get that list of mail. You have to tap right here. And there it is. And then tap it back, okay? Oops. Okay. So the iPad, while the iPhone is designed to be done in portrait mode up and down, the iPads are designed to be horizontal in landscape mode. Okay? So you'll notice the similarity between the two, but most people that used to have the Mac didn't like that. So they click Show up here, so that shows your inboxes. But if you go into Mail Preferences, use Classic View. That's what we used to have on the Mac, and most people are more comfortable with that. That being said, a lot of you see this little, everywhere there's a little button, that means you can move that. I can reduce the size of my message list or increase it completely, and then to read a message, I have to double click on the message to bring the message up. Okay? So that's a personal preference, and of the people I've visited, everybody has it a little different. My preferred way is kind of keep it split, and then I can obviously just scroll here what I want.
So you're in class.
I'm in Classic, yeah, because I'm an old man.
What's the other one called?
It's not Classic.
How do you get that?
Go to Mail Preferences, go to Viewing, and then deselect that. And then on the left, you click Hide to get rid of the boxes.
What is it this one trying to do to make it
Yeah, and it's actually, let's talk about that in a second. Barb brought up a good point. Is it trying to get us to do more like the iPad? No, but you know what? And people say, well, Apple's trying to make our Mac just like the iPad. They're forgetting the Mac and all this. No, what they're trying to do is, there are so many people buying iPad these days that were never Mac users. So why not make the Mac look more like it for them? They learn it here, they're learning it there. And this is huge. And there's reasons it's designed that way in this, because we're not using a mouse, we're using our finger. And so when you look at them, this way is the way they're shipping the Macs now. And we have to change it back to the way we're used to, or we change the way we do it. But it makes a lot of sense, because the iPad users, they're new to computing in general, or there's a lot of them that were PC users. So why not make the Mac so if they learn it here, they're learning the Mac also? Okay? And again, it's a tough, they don't want to alienate all us Apple fanboys for years and years and years, but so they give us a way to go back to it and have it. So back up to our preferences. So that was viewing. I don't really care about any of the other stuff. You can change the color. I have a tendency to leave this stuff as stock. The next one is composing. Now, is yours set on message format rich text by default? Good. That just means that it can do strike-throughs, etc. Most email clients can support that, so leave that. Check spelling as I type. Same on the iPad and the Mac. It just gives you the little underline, and it doesn't autocorrect, but it lets you correct it if you want to. Now, automatically CC myself. That means if you send a mail, send yourself a copy. I don't need that much mail. Because we're saving our sent messages on the server, so we should be able to see them. You can do it if you want. You can always set it to do it inside your mail, but I don't think this is a good default. And you don't want it set on this either. We're going to go through the settings for mail on this. Forget the LDAP, that's good, leave that there. Now, the next one is send new messages from. I have a couple accounts, right? So if I click on that, I have a few accounts. I can select when I make a new message what one I want it to send from. Okay? So, in the case of those of you that are on AT&T that I'm cajoling to get onto Gmail, I would say, make it go from Gmail as the default from this point forward. But the only caveat to that is, if I reply, in fact, here's an example. Barb sent this to my, Ken Spencer, I don't even have that one in here, but let's just say, so when I reply, here's one I sent to myself. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. I sent it to my AHA address, and when I hit reply, it will always go from the address it was sent to. No matter what I've selected for new message as a default email, it will always select what it was sent to. Same here. If I go into the iPad and I reply, it always goes from the account it was sent from. Okay? So, how do I change that on an iPad or an iOS device is, I tap one time right here, and then I have to tap in from again, and there I can choose which email address I want to send it from. Okay, let's go back through that. Cancel, cancel. Well, an example of that would be, great question. Bart wants to know, why would I do that? Because I'm stupid. I just want to confuse things. No, actually, let's say someone's on SBC or att.net, and I'm not trying to harp on this. I'm just trying to use it. It's a pertinent example today. Is it got sent to my AT&T email? Or this one is one I use for this special project, but I don't use this one very often. So I say, it always comes up when I hit reply, it'll always bring up the one that it was sent to, which is really the way you want it for the most part. Yeah. But in this case, I would say, well, no, it was sent to my ATT, but I want people to start using my Gmail.
It's a great way of informing people.
Exactly. Yep, and you know what? At that point, we're going to talk about signatures. You could always put a signature on your email. Hey, make sure you update your box. I'm using Gmail now, or something like that. You can make that as a signature for a while. It's not. That's part of the reason why I say make a transition away from who your internet service provider email is right now, because if you're going to have to change and you've got a month to change, you got a lot to go through. So ease yourself into it. Gmail's not going away. Gmail's here forever. I like Apple iCloud Mail, but to be honest, Pete too, we both use Gmail primarily because it has a better spam filter. iCloud email is fine. Gmail is great. So, and there's no reason not to use it. Not at all. So again, I hit reply, it filled in, I tap the screen, it's weird, I have to tap it again because it just brought up this pull down menu. Now I tap right here again, and then I get my choice of the different accounts. If you don't have those choices on your iPad, it means you don't have more accounts on there yet. Okay? So then I would select it. Let's say I want to send it from kenspencer@icloud.com, which I never use. Boom. See how it now is my from address? So when I send this to Barb, it'll say it came from my iCloud account. Go ahead, Bart.
From now on, I want all of my reply mails to be
Bart,
changed to
yeah, Bart's question is, can you force it to do it? In preferences, no. But for instance, if somebody from AT&T wants to switch over to Gmail, I can set your Gmail account up so that no matter what you send, it'll come from your Gmail, and in fact, we can make it so your AT&T comes into it. It's how I did everybody for the MacNexus.org. They have a MacNexus.org address. MacNexus is not an email provider anymore, but we have it forwarded to people's Gmail's account, but when they reply, it still shows it goes from MacNexus.org. It takes a little bit of gymnastics for me to do it, but we can do it. If it's going to get you off AT&T Yahoo, I'm all for it. Now, what we've just done on the iPad, we'll show you how it happens on the Mac. So, I'm going to hit reply. You'll notice it's the same AHA merchandising. Here's the reply to the message. And I simply click here, and this is kind of a similar list to what I just had of who I want to send it from. Okay, so if I decide to make it again, Ken Spencer at iCloud.com, that's how Barb would see it. Okay. When you reply, it will always reply from where it was sent, unless sent wherever you received it to, unless you change it. Now, if I close that and we go back to our preferences in Mail, I can say account of selected mailbox is how yours comes by default. And I think that's crazy because it means I'm clicked on a mailbox over here, so which one is it? You should choose a default one. And then when I go new message, see, it came from the one I selected. So we'll go back over that. In preferences, in composing, I'm going to say, and I've never sent a mail from my iCloud account, so I'm going to go that one. I'm going to click that. Now, when I hit reply to this one that got sent to my AHA, you'll notice it replied from the AHA. If I go to a new message, it's that one that I set as my default. Okay? Anybody not clear on that? Is that hate to beat a dead horse. Let's go into the iPad and show you where that's located. You go to the settings, the gray gear, and then you go down to Mail, Contacts, and Calendars. And if you look under Mail, right here it says Default Account. Okay? And then I just tap on that, and I get a choice of my default account. So in other words, a lot of people use their iPad more personal, so they would have that be personal email, and they might not want it to go out from a business email. But remember, this is just for new messages. Nothing changes. Unfortunately, I wish there was a way to set it so it always replied from where you want it to reply to, whether it kind of is, but it's a really deep deal. But this is just for new messages. I'm going to make it go from my iCloud account. Just right now. I usually use the Gmail. Okay? Is that clear? Anybody got troubles with that? Go ahead.
How do you add accounts?
That we will do in a couple minutes. So, good question, though. All right, now, while we're in composing, there's a thing called increase quote level. Increase quote level, I hate. And I'll show you what happens here with increase quote level. I'm going to turn it on. Yours is on by default. Yeah, and I'll go back to the other two. I'm going to do it on both. So on the iPad, I've increased quote level. Now, don't switch to mail. I'm just going to show you. When I reply, I get this line down here. And let's say this conversation goes back and forth about 4 or 5 times. Pretty soon, you're way over here on, well, it'd be this way, you're way over here on the margin trying to read the thing, and the lines get this short because it's quoted back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That used to be standard business protocol. I'm surprised Apple has it on by default, but I hate this indentation. So, I keep it off. It's on by default. And that's the only way you're going to get the color also that we showed earlier about the quoted text. Okay? By having it on is the only way you'll get the color quoted text. So I'm going to hit cancel. Now I'm going to go back to settings, and I'm going to go to mail contacts and calendars, increase quote level, and turn it off. It's your choice, but I hate it because so many times I'll forward an email to somebody, it's got all those quotes, and to go delete it and stuff is a big trick to get all that stuff off of there. And I just think it just gobs it up. I'm surprised because Apple, with their simplicity, leaves it off. Let's see what that looks. Did everybody get that okay? Everybody got it off? It's your choice. I won't admonish you if you send me an email that has it quoted on it. Because it still quotes the text, it just doesn't put that bar in there. See, with it off, it still quotes the text. It just doesn't have that ugly bar. Yeah. But no, it's not bad when it's just doing one. But when it's gone back and forth 6, 8 times. All right. So on the Mac, it's still in composing, and it's right here on increase quote level. And we want to turn it off. I want to turn it off. It's your choice. Please turn it off. So in a case like that where I don't quote it, and if you left quotes on, mine wouldn't indent, but yours will. And that's okay. It's your choice. But I don't know. I just don't see usefulness in it in most emails we use. It's just to follow. It was, and the worst thing is on a Windows machine, it has all these little carets, the little less than signs, and it works its way across. It just gobs it all up, and it's ugly. But it's the old protocol and how they've kind of had email go back and forth. Because originally you didn't have a way to color text to really see. So, all right, so that's composing. Do your guys all say include selected text, if any? All right. So I'm going to go back on the iPad into settings because there was a couple more here. So below increased quote level is signature. In fact, I'm going to use my iPhone signature so you can see it. All right. So on my iPhone, I've created a signature on my iPhone. Mail, contacts, and calendars. Signature. I have to, actually, I'm going to fix this right now while I'm speaking of it. Because I use Siri a lot, and I'd hate for Siri to say something that I don't really mean, because it used to be the autocorrect when you were using the keyboard would say things you didn't mean. Siri can sometimes do it, so I say, sorry if the message is curt. In other words, I try to keep it short. Has typos or weird insertions for Siri, and just letting them know I'm mobile. And I'm going to delete the rest of that because it just, that's what came stock on it. So that's my signature. And I can put my signature different for different accounts, okay? Like there's the one with my address. So, unfortunately right now we can't do image signatures too well on the iOS device. So when you get an email from me, it'll have that signature on it. Go ahead, Bart.
These signatures, are they something that start the letter or end the message, or where are they placed?
Great question. I'll show you when I fire up an email. Well, if you have an iPad or an iPhone, it automatically comes with a signature. So if I'm going to say new message, it says sent from my iPad. And what you type is usually above it. If you quote something, if I reply, the signature is above the quoted text. Okay? Signatures could be your phone number, could be a neat flourish of your name or things like that. Connie? We're going to do it on the Mac because I'm reluctant to do it on this because I think it's going to be more robust in iOS 7. Yeah, on these, it's simply text. So let's show you how to make it here, and then we'll do it on the Mac. Signatures was part of the... actually, yeah, we're right where we needed to be for that. So on the iOS device, I click on Mail, Contacts, and Calendars. I go down to Signature, and there's where I can type in what I want. And I'll say, please excuse any mistakes that Siri might make, period. She's great, comma, and she's my girlfriend, comma, but she might not be perfect, period. Okay, so I've, instead of typing it, I used Siri. And it took it pretty well. So that's my new signature from my iPad. Okay, so I have all accounts selected. If I say per account, I can determine which account you could have. Let's say I have a work and a home email. You could have a different signature for each account. Okay, that's the per account. When I say all accounts, it's the same signature for all accounts. Okay, I think signatures is going to get better in iOS 7, so I'm not going to spend much more time on signature here. But to me, my brother started using it. Other people that use Siri, they like the whole deal. Hey, what, because it can screw up, and it just does. So it's better to just, it's better to ask for absolution beforehand before you really make somebody angry because you told them couldn't do it. Now, we're going to go into signatures for the Mac. Actually, let's look at here. Here's a little signature that I have. Kind of looks like me, I think. Shorts, spiky hair. He's not as heavy as I am. It's right there, a little nerd. So if I go up to Mail, Preferences, M-A-I-L, Preferences, Composing, and go to the next one over here is Signatures, next to Composing. Open this tab a little bit. Now, the first thing you have to do, now let's everybody get here because we're going to make a signature before our quick break. Oh, I'm sorry, don't say because you made some changes. So now you can go. Okay. Everybody there? All right. So signatures can be dull and boring, or they can be fun. A lot of you that have been with EmpowerMac a long time ago, Pete had everybody make signatures. You can do some fancy filigree fonts and things like that. Most of the time, those will be seen by other people. Not always, but most of the time. But we're going to do first a simple, just text font, a text signature. Okay. So go down to the plus sign in the middle here, right there. We're going to hit plus, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to call it class test. You guys can call it whatever you'd like. And you notice what's funny is it automatically fills it. Did everybody get it? Does it automatically fill something in for you? It's sourcing your account and saying, well, maybe you want this. Doesn't mean you have to take it. So let's delete that by just clicking over here and saying, this is a test signature. Okay? Now, okay, so I have the option of making it match whatever I'm using in my message font. If you want a plain Jane signature and you want it to match the text of what you have, you can do that. But we're not plain Jane. We're on a Mac. We have the capability to change the text. So I'm going to go up here to the word window. I'm sorry. Format. Come down to show fonts. Okay, everybody click that. Command T is the keyboard shortcut. Think of it as text. Command T. So did everybody get a little font window up like this? If you didn't, please raise your hand. This is critical. Everybody has a font window up. So now if I just start changing the font now, it's not going to do anything. I have to highlight the text. In fact, let's just highlight part of the text to show how this works. If I want to highlight a word, I double click on the word, it highlights. I'm going to take that word and say make it 24 point, and I'll change it to ugly. Oh, we'll go with magenta. Okay? Everybody able to modify their signature?
Font box doesn't have display.
Ah, good, okay. That's because I cheated. This is something that we went over yesterday briefly. Your font box probably looks like that, correct? It's all closed up. There's a little arrow there. Sometimes it's a dot. In this case, it's an arrow, actually. Slide it down, and it gives you a preview of the font you're on. Apple doesn't think you need that, so they hide it. We want you to pay extra. It's this racket us educators have. You know, Apple says, show them how to do it. I think it's the whole minimalist thing. So as you notice, you'll see the different texts up there, and in fact, it corresponds to the point you have. Okay, rather than having to watch it here the whole time. So does everybody have that exposed now?
How did you get to it?
I grab the little dot and drag it down. Yep. Click and drag. There you go. Perfect. Okay? And warning, warning, warning. The graphic people in the world say don't use Comic Sans. That's the big meme these days about Comic Sans is so dated and everything else. So don't tell Billy that. I kind of like it too, but it's I guess we need, and there's websites about oh, don't use comic. It's just it's kind of a bit of an inside joke, but I think the problem is it got so overused. So.
One of my fonts doesn't change. I'm using Dakota. All the other ones will change it.
For here? In signatures?
In signatures, yeah. So it's changing. Oh, I had handwriting Dakota.
I just tried it. Interesting. Ah. Yeah, you know what you know what that is? It's a font that's not supported in the rich text format, probably. So, if you want your signature to be handwriting Dakota, stay tuned until after the break.
Okay.
All right, during the break, I'm going to play another video. So, Sean, did you have great. Sean's going to pass out the menus. Were there any specials? Okay, and I assume there's no barbecue out there. And is there a salad bar? Okay. Well, you can ask that when she comes in. Those of you that are new, you don't have to eat here. It's reasonably priced. We're going to take a break at 1 o'clock for lunch, and you can do half salads, huh? Okay, because you're here, because you're the driver. Okay, what he said. Don't shoot the messenger. You can do half salads if you want to. They're very good about that. So let's go watch another video while we take a quick break. This one would be... So we'll also play the current Apple ad that I think is amazing.
This is it. This is what matters. The experience of a product. How will it make someone feel? Will it make life better? Does it deserve to exist? We spend a lot of time on a few great things until every idea we touch enhances each life it touches. You may rarely look at it, but you'll always feel it. This is our signature, and it means everything.
Yeah, but it's not going to. So bring that up when we start. Are you going to order?
Can we get down there with Wi-Fi or?
Try EmpowerMac. We might have too many people on it.
That's all right.
When the Were you not able to get on?
Well, better than I have independent.
Could be because it's so many people.
Okay.
Oh, well, you could set up a hotspot and she could use yours.
Okay.
Hey, you want to do that?
Yeah.
So go to General. Or go to Settings. And go to General. Or go to Cellular Data. Fourth one down. And say Personal Hotspot. It's on. So there it is. Well, no, it gives it right there. So tap on where it says Wi-Fi. And on one sec, it's like, that's out there. And you do that, use that password key. Got it? Spell letters.
BOCKNT 8299.
Same can be done with your own phone. Let's take a look. Like magic. What's that? Well, it's the internet here is problematic usually. Yeah, but you might not get to a website is the problem. You broke it.
I got the last one.
Yeah, I got the last one. You know, that's not as far from the truth as it sounds.
This is it. This is what matters. The experience of a product. How will it make someone feel?
Oh, go ahead and leave that open, Bart, please.
Will it make life
Sean,
better?
can you see when Rosa can come in? Please.
Does it deserve to exist? We spend a lot of time on a few great things. Until
Cool.
every
We
idea
powered through
touch
most of mail.
enhances each life it touches. You may rarely look at it, but you'll always feel it. This is our signature, and it means everything.
There's a whole lot of
We'll go through that when we have a chance, because they shouldn't be stored. Some of this is just there as a holder. Sometimes it's just there to make sure everything works. Okay. But is it only when it's junk or not? Because see, that says it's junk, and you have the option to load images. The rest of the time, that could be Adobe Flash. It's not loaded on your machine. Right? So make a note that I'll talk about that. Well, since most everybody's here, I'll talk about that. Apple doesn't ship Adobe Flash on your machine, and you have to download it yourself. Don't download it here because you're going to But just give me a shout or send me an email, and I'll send you what you need to do. And iPad and iPhone don't play Flash at all. It shouldn't be. Well, it's Okay, so make a new user account on his Mac. So, you know how to do that? I know, and he doesn't either. So, we'll do it. I can either explain it to you now and not have it work, or we can explain it to you later
Okay.
when he's in front of it and have it work.
All right. We'll do
Yeah,
that.
it's
So you just do it over the phone then? Or?
yeah, and I can actually get on and view
Okay.
his screen with it.
So we just need to make
You'll
an
need to bring
appointment.
your cable, and that's it. Yeah,
Great.
and it shouldn't take long at all.
Okay.
And
Just
I
have to
mean,
coordinate us being at his house and.
yeah, or you could leave it with him for an evening or something like
Oh,
that
okay.
too. You know, because it's just a matter. The Apple Store genius might do it for you. You could make an appointment at the Apple Store, and they might really do it for you there.
Okay.
I'm not positive, but that's worth a try. And it's
Yeah.
free. They
Yeah.
won't charge you anything.
Okay.
They're great about that.
I think in the past, a lot of times when the photos weren't showing up, it was happening on my computer, not on. But then if I go to my iPad, they would show it. But maybe that was more on the PC than since I've gotten it.
Yeah. If it's the way it works is on junk, they figure, well, you're probably not going to read it, so we don't want to download it because it takes extra bandwidth. But then they say, okay, if it's not junk, then they do put it in.
Yes.
But sometimes if it's certain videos, you might not be able to see them. Some of these emails
I
are really
ignored
videos.
it.
Oh. But sometimes a friend will send you. Sometimes a friend will send you a neat little thing about a cat, purring or something like that. Sometimes those don't show, and you need to download a couple of things. But if when it happens and it doesn't say not junk and it doesn't load images, let me know what you're getting for a picture and stuff. Just send me an email. Did you talk to her directly? Huh? What? No, don't trust those.
Really?
No.
Logitech?
Well, Logitech maybe, but
Gail bought a shirt.
okay.
I'm not sure.
30 pins are okay. The new one, the new lightning connector, only if it's in your Apple. There's a reason why they're expensive. I had one I tried. So, how many here? Hi, Rosa.
Hello.
Don't forget to she'll give you a number when you come through. Before, I'm going to do half of a shrimp Caesar please with no coupon. You have to say that. Thank you.
Same thing, no croutons and extra cheese.
You're getting extra cheese and you're not getting extra cheese.
I'm getting extra cheese with no croutons. And there is no salad bar today, everyone.
There is.
Oh, wait.
It's on the bar.
There's a salad bar in the bar, and is there a barbecue?
It is, but it won't be ready.
At one?
I don't know what time they're at.
Okay. Film at 11.
Okay. Here is your number. I don't know what happened.
You're always number one to me, Rose.
This is what's going to make changes. Okay. What would you like? Any cheese? Would you like a tip?
So how many here have an iPhone 4 or older? Well, Sean, you have a bunch. Barb. No, 4S. You have a 4S? I said a 4 or older. So you have Siri?
make sure you take that with you. Anybody else is ordering lunch? Yeah.
Do you have cereal in yours?
What would you like today?
English burger.
How would you like it good?
Well done.
Well done. And what would you like with it?
The onion rings.
Onion rings. And you'll be number 4 today, okay?
And I told you before, I'm allergic to garlic.
Yes, they don't put any garlic.
Okay, so then we're eating together.
Okay, what would you like? I'm looking at bread.
Right this second.
I have white wheat rye or sourdough. Sourdough? And for you?
I have the
He's still how long?
Any cheese?
yeah.
Okay, so cheeseburger. How would you like it cooked? Medium rare? Yes, a little. Medium?
So
Okay.
here,
What would you
I'm
like
going to
with
show it
the
up on the screen here.
Coleslaw.
So, actually, here's the deal.
This is your number, okay?
If anyone knows anybody that, and I'm going to talk about this before the next class too, if anybody needs a phone, if you have a 4 or a 4S,
I'm looking at bread.
Best Buy will give you a minimum of $150 gift card towards a 4S, or use it towards purchase of an iPhone 5 for $149, the $150 gift card, so you're going to make $1 on it. You're going to pay $50 tax because the cost of the phone is $650. They charge tax on the full amount. And you'll pay probably a $35 activation fee, and then you have a new 2-year contract. Huh? Well, yeah, because he's probably not under contract because they didn't subsidize the phone. You'd have to check with it. Now, this is only if you can up your contract. The other one is Walmart has just dropped the price of the iPhone 5 to $129, and the iPhone 4S is $40, but they will also do a trade-in on your phone, too. The 4S is great. The 5 is a lot better. It's going to support more things. But just having Siri, which we're going to see in the next, after the break here, you're going to see how valuable Siri is.
One is throwing a conniption fit because, I gave him my old computer and it's not an Intel. So now he can't open anything because it says open with Flash.
Oh, no, you just download the new flashback.
It won't download it. It says it says it won't.
Have you done software update to update a Safari? Or try Google Chrome?
So download Google Chrome.
See if that works. If not, let me know.
Yeah, because he's just going.
We have to have
He can't.
bliss within the house.
Oh my gosh, kid! And I get all the flack. It crashes down on me.
You'll take it back.
Well, I did. I said, okay, I think we need to get you a new computer. See, he's not into planned obsolescence. That just grates against his
No, but just tell
craw.
him you'll just take the computer back if he doesn't like it.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem was I gave his to my brother. See, it
Which
got
was even
really
older, right?
complicated. It's really complicated. It was awful. I should never interfere with what he's got and what he's doing. He still has his cars he's had since he was in his 20s.
Cars? Well, they're going up in value.
Well,
Computers
maybe,
aren't.
Maybe. I don't know. He's got an old pickup and an old Alpha. So I don't
Alpha's
know.
going up in value.
Maybe. If you say
Hey, you can leave that open for right now.
Okay, all right, we don't do that. So if you have you got your phone through AT&T,
Uh-huh.
and it's a family sort of contract.
All right.
So
Each number has, you know what? I'm going to bring that up in the beginning, but each number has its own contract. So whether you're upgrade eligible or not. So you're on AT&T. You got your phone with you? Hand it to me real quick. I get more phones this way. Yes. Right
One
there.
o'clock is fine?
Yes.
oh,
Thank you.
oh,
And then you can get out. Coke for me.
okay.
Oh, hey, that was quick.
It's like you said 1 hour, there's 1 at lunch. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. Boy, I tell you, you were oh, come on, there was nothing. There it is.
How many here are on AT&T for your phone?
Oh, the shoot the puzzle, yeah.
For my phone, for my iPhone?
Yeah.
No.
All right, so you're going to get a free text message. You're eligible for an early upgrade to the partial. You're going to, wow, you didn't get this one too long ago, but your wife's number is probably upgraded. Are you here for the afternoon class? Because I'm going to discuss this in the afternoon class. Alrighty.
She's looking to do an iOS. She's
You want me to have her turn it down? So we will.
No, just for me.
Well, is it really distracting?
I just focusing on colors when I got there. It actually was looking like something. But the top, they were cold.
Hate to rock the boat.
There's an advantage for me to buy a computer from Apple,
For the one-to-one?
but no advantage apparently for me
On the phone?
on the phone.
In fact, disadvantage. We're going to discuss the phone thing. Now, is there anyone that's not staying for the afternoon class? You guys are leaving? Are you staying for the afternoon class? Reminders and all that? No? Yes?
No.
No. Okay. So you guys can email me. I'll post this about the phones if anybody's going to be upgrading. Otherwise, just call me and I have this info because I'm going to go into this in the beginning of the afternoon class. So. Comcast has the best internet. They're doing Xfinity. Their TV is expensive. Their phone's right there with everybody else. But you get about a year, and then they're going to jack the price up. But I have a special email address you can send to, and they'll usually get it back down for you. But, for me, bundling doesn't mean anything because I have free home phone anyway through UMA. So I don't even use the phone part of it. I just have TV and internet.
Comcast has the best.
I'm sorry?
They would charge us more to get all this stuff.
Well, yeah, and see, Comcast is really kind of smart because they have acquired NBC Universal, and they're now a content creator. So, and then they make Dish and Direct Buy from them. I think the best TV service going right now is Dish Network with their Hopper. The Hopper records all the local channels. It's great. I can. A friend of mine has Dish on his. I can watch shows from his DVR and all that other stuff on the iPad. It's the most progressive there is.
Well, is that why I have Dish? And they seem to come into my thing and they're recording this, put some stuff on my memory.
Do you have the Hopper?
I don't know.
Is it on your iPad, you mean, or on your other?
They're my source of internet.
Dish is.
Dish.
So you're doing a bundle, okay.
And what I get from it is I get Korean TV without paying any money for it.
Can't beat that.
But it's suddenly, the stuff I'm trying to record, there's not enough room on the record because they are recording stuff that's been done for their convenience or some policy.
Yeah, I don't know on that. That's a weird one. Okay, let's get started. Barb?
Yeah.
Other Barb? Yeah, you'll have to stay after class. Like that's punishment, right? Okay. So, when we last tuned in, we were working on signatures for the Mac. And I've only got a couple more things here for Mail, and then we're going to move on to Safari, and everything will apply to the iOS and the Mac alike, and the same thing with contacts. So, you'll notice that I have this little guy in my signature like this. So what you have to do, and we're not going to go through making the object for your signature, but at some point you can go in and make a little JPEG image, and it can be part of your signature.
Can you just drop in a photograph too?
Yes. But you need to downsize it. And you use Preview to downsize it. Okay? So I'm just going to show how to do that really quick here. We're in class test. And I'm going to go out here into my Spotlight. I'm going to find a .jpg, which tells me it's a image. I'm just going to go find something. Let's see what that one is. A tier. Oh gosh. Looks like it's huge. Okay. All right, let me go by size. All right, well, here's my little guy. Oops, that was, let's fix this. There, hey, there we go. That's kind of cool. So, I'm going to take that and drag it over my signature box, okay? So that's now my new signature. But it's big. Unfortunately, currently I can't resize it here. I would resize it somewhere else. Now, we've made a signature with an image under signatures. So, under all signatures is where we made it. But now it will not show up in any of your mail unless you tell the signature to go to one or all your mail accounts. So if I go over here and I drag Class Tech to there, I drag it to there, and I drag it to there. So now it's part of these other accounts. That's the part that people miss most often is you need to tell the signature it can be used in those accounts.
Even though it's already in
All signatures is just the repository to start them out with.
okay.
It's where you do all your signatures and then you determine where you want to distribute them.
Okay.
Okay? And you can distribute them as many places as you want.
Yeah, so I'm just completely using signatures for accounts.
Right. So now if I go to my iCloud account, I have 5 signatures to choose from, right? Some of them are pretty similar. I was messing with these a little bit. So I can choose which signature I want right down here in that account. If I do our class test, I get the giraffe one when I do a mail from that one. I want to go back and do the one I had. Now, Gmail, I can choose whichever one I want. I had this one this was like the bottom of a letterhead that I had. So I don't really want it in there, so I'm going to click on it and hit the minus sign and get rid of it. Okay. Again, you have to attach the email. Now, I'm in this iCloud account. I can choose random order. If I have, let's say I have multiple ones. Let's go to the account where I have 5 of them. I can choose no signature, anyone, at random, or in sequential order. Did you add a signature to your? Did you slide a signature to your account first? And then you probably only have one signature though. So you probably only have none and the signature, right? That would be the equivalent to this one where I only have one account. Okay? All right. No, that's a good question. So let's go back to this one. This is my iCloud. Now I've told it to be it's supposed to be EPM, EmpowerMac. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip back to mail and say new message. And look at this. My signature is available over here. But I still have the choice to change it to that one. So just like what account do we send it from, we have the choice, once you're in the mail, to choose another signature only if it's already in that account. If those five, like let's change it to my Gmail account, I don't have a choice of any more than the ones I assigned to it. So you have to assign the signature to an account to make it usable in that account, and then it becomes an option. But look at this. It says go to Edit Signatures, and if I hit Edit Signatures, I come up with that preference. Okay? Signatures are great. They're fun. They can be informative. A lot of times you may want your phone number on the bottom of signatures. Sometimes you don't. So you can choose to do that. You can choose different signatures. The other thing is, there's a really neat one, and we talk about, well, why would I ever use the random order? I've not set it up, but I've seen a lot of people do it, where they have a bunch of quotes. Aristotle, different things like that, and they have 10 of them, and they have them go in random order. So when someone gets an email from that person, they have a different signature of a quote. And that's kind of neat. But you can do whatever you want. You have the same option on the iOS device. When we go to signatures, actually you really don't have as many, but you just say in the account, and see, I only have one signature on here, but if you had multiple signatures on, you don't have my iPad, sorry. Where did the iPad go? There it goes. If you had multiple signatures on here, you could choose it, but you really don't have that yet. In iOS 7 you will. I'm not delving on signatures in the iPad very much because of that. So, we've beat signatures to death. Oh, by the way, I can simply just click on it and hit delete, and it gets rid of the signature. Okay. Just for right then.
So can the spammers get a hold of your signature?
Well, actually, a good question is, can the spammers get a hold of my signature? The spammers get a hold of everything, as you can kind of see, because I always get these things about breast enlargement, and I think my breasts are big enough. So, in fact, it's been proven that mine's big enough. And I'm sure you ladies get the blue pill advertisement, too. So, target marketing, I guess. Anyway, but if I have an email, so it's not as bad as it is on websites, but they already can get your email, because when you send the email, your email address is up there. But if you have your phone number in an image and not text, they can't find it. And I'll show you that. I have this signature of the whole thing, and how Bart wanted to have Dakota handwriting as it. He makes that a picture of your name in Dakota handwriting, saves that picture by doing a screenshot, and then brings that in as an image. And that's how you can get a really fancy signature, and it's just an image. But to be honest, they're going to get the information from you one way or the other. More than likely, they can't get into that mail and scan that unless it was sent to them. Don't reply to spammers. Don't say, take me off your list. The only ones that works with is with legitimate companies, the Land's End, the Amazons, and if you say unsubscribe, they'll take you off the list. The ones that come in that you don't want, don't say take me off the list, because then they go, cool, we got a real email address, bing, 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 send them lots of stuff. So, again, don't take that personal. That's not just you. Everybody's getting it. Misery loves company, right, Connie?
Is there a rash of emails that are getting jacked? I'm just getting from my friend's name,
All right.
You know, why is it happening?
And I'll bet you that most of them have yahoo.com on them.
I don't know. But the other
All right.
one that's happening is that professional side. That's again. Yeah. So what's going on with that? Those two? And how do we-
All right. The first thing there's called hijacking. It's been very common for people with a Yahoo account with a simple password to get hijacked. Before, that was my big preach about why to get rid of a Yahoo account. Everybody knows Fred, used to come to the classes quite a bit. Fred he's Dutch. He used to work for HP in Indonesia, and he lives in America. He's an American citizen, so he's kind of got all this well-rounded thing. Well, and Fred's on Yahoo, and Fred's at a lot of different websites, photography websites and things. So I got an email from Fred that said, I don't even know if it said Ken. It just says, hey, I'm stuck in England. I got mugged. They got my passport. I need to get $200 or $2,000 or something like that to go to the embassy to get my passport so I can come back. Well, the $200, the dollar sign was after the 0 in 200. We're used to seeing it in front, right? And so I thought for a second, and this was very early on in this. This is before this became very common. And I thought, well, Fred, yeah, he's European. He went to Indonesia. But no, he knows to put the dollar sign in front of the 2. So then I read through it, and it was someone had hijacked his account. Someone got in, and he's on a Mac, so it wasn't a PC virus kind of thing, because that's a whole different issue. So he didn't know it. Someone got into his Yahoo account and was sending mail pretending to be Fred. And if you'd have responded to it, it had when you hit respond, it was a little different address. I was like, so that's a whole scam to, hey, wire money and do it out. This happens on the phone. Those of you that know Jesse from La Placida, when their son passed away, somebody said, oh yeah, they knew that this cousin and this uncle were coming up, and they were driving a white truck, and they got a phone call saying, hey, we're stuck, and we got in a little fender bender, and wire us $2,000 so we can pay the guy that we hit, and just all this. And it was an inside job. I mean, it was somebody that knew these people that were coming up here. But it happens on the phone. It happens on email. I'm just trying to point out that it can happen anywhere. But that is a hijacking. There's also the thing where if people use Outlook on a PC, you have all your contacts in there. Virus guys can get in and harvest the emails out of that Outlook, and then they send an email to everybody in the book, but they use the outgoing to look like somebody else from the book, so you don't know where it really started. How would it be if my name got in there? I'm using a Mac. I don't use Outlook. So they did it, and they send it out, and they make it look like it came from the person. This stuff is out there all the time. There's phishing, phishing. Hey, we're updating our security at our bank. You need to go ahead and log in. I mean, how many of you gotten that, and it's a bank that you don't even deal with? Well, that tells you that probably if you get it from a bank that you do deal with, it's not likely your bank. Those are phishing scams. They're casting a line and trying to reel those suckers in. So, in that case, in a bank or credit card issue, they will never ask you for your password right then or anything else. Don't click on the links in the email. I had one on Craigslist that came up that was amazing, and I really dissected this thing to find out. And it said, because we had posted one time, a long time ago, to tell people about EmpowerMac classes on Craigslist. And so somebody looked like Craigslist said, your account's getting flagged a lot. If we can verify your credit card, we'll say you're not flagged and stuff. And I just looked over it and saw what it was, but it looked officially and looked just like Craigslist, but it wasn't Craigslist. So go directly, if it's your credit card or your bank, go directly to the site. Don't click on the link in the email, because I can make the link look like anything, and I can make a website that looks just like Bank of America's crappy website, okay? and just go directly. Don't use that stuff. These hijackings are, there's, and you'll get it. I've got one account that somehow somebody's sending out using something at kenspencer.com. And it looks, and I'm getting the returns, oh, I'm on vacation, or all these other things. So somebody's spamming using kenspencer.com, and there's nothing you can do to prevent it. These names get out there, and it's just be careful. Barton and Connie.
So just as a general rule, when someone's emailing you, if it's personally known or the hacker, then you don't use it because someone could be saying that they're that person.
If you send me an email saying that you're updating my security at Wells Fargo, I know that's not true. But if you send me a link that says, hey, check this out, okay, but there's some going around now where it looks like it came from you, and it's a link, and if you were on a PC, you should be very worried because it could create a virus, or the newest thing is, it's called link bait, where what they're doing is you click on it, you go to the website, and it forwards and forwards and forwards and forwards, and every time an eyeball sees it, they're getting ad revenue. They're all whores, okay? I'm sorry, but it is. And it's the Turkish bazaar is what it is. But you're on a Mac, you're on an iPad, you're on an iPhone, you cannot get hurt. You cannot get hurt because you can't get a virus and you're protected. If you were on a PC, you should run and hide if you get something like that and if you click on it, because it can insert things into your computer that'll pop up and say, well, we saw you got a virus, and if you pay us money, we'll take that virus out. And then what they do is they actually plant more of a virus, or they'll plant something on your computer called a keylogger. And they can sit there and watch you when you type your passwords for your bank. Everybody agree passwords are hell? It gets fixed this fall. Stay tuned. You will never have password problems again on the Mac, on the iPad, or the iPhone with new keychain in the cloud that's coming with iOS. I'm going to talk about it in the beginning of the next class. Sorry, you guys are going to leave, but you're going to see it. It's going to be part of it. It will make an uncrackable password up. You'll never have to remember it. The only password you're going to have to remember is your Apple ID password. So that's another reason why you want to have a secure Apple ID password. And that will help with a lot of this, because if you have a super secure password, it's highly unlikely these people can get into these different accounts. Don't have any password for anywhere that's a word that's in the dictionary, or two words that are in the dictionary. If it's a word that's in the dictionary, put a number in the middle of it. Because there are programs that sit there and keep trying every word in the dictionary to see if you said rosebud. And yeah, they always do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also. So anyway, that's... Connie, go ahead.
Just one more quick question related to emails. If you're a member of a group and you're sending out a group email, is it best to use the BCC?
I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
And it's actually going to be kind of now and then go into contacts, which is coming up right afterwards. Your question?
When these emails get forwarded,
You can't do anything about it. You didn't control it.
okay, but isn't the person in the paying is the instruction for them to change their password?
If they got hijacked, go in and change their password. But sometimes it appears to look like it came from them. For instance, I get it from kenspencer.com. Kenspencer.com exists on no email server. It's strictly a forward. If you send something to me at kenspencer.com, it gets forwarded to my Gmail account. So there's nowhere where they go in and found a password on that, because Ken Spencer doesn't have a, quote, outgoing. So it just happens. They just find stuff and just send it. It's like fake phone calls. You know, now they can call you. They can fake the number they're calling from. Yeah. Or they can make it look like a real phone number and it'd be totally different than what theirs is. So, you know, it's the Wild West out there. Be careful. All right. So we did signatures. I want to quickly go on to the last of our preferences, which is rules. Now, I have a couple rules set up here. Somehow somebody got an email address, and what was it? I kept getting 30 emails a day, and it was zol.co.zw, and it was really kind of a mistake. I don't get them anymore. But what I do now is I have a thing here. Savannah, I was getting this one. It's a friend of mine's email address that was Yahoo. It's somebody I've known since grammar school days. And let's hit my rule. So I said anything that comes from any of these addresses set color, hang on, cancel. Oh, there it was, news from Apple, edit. So, we're not going to go into rules too heavily, but I just made a rule that said, I called it Savannah, and I said, if anything comes from, this is an old email address of hers, sbcglobal@yahoo. Or it's a Yahoo one. I said, move the message directly to the trash. So, be careful, because you don't want to do this if you say, if it comes in and it says it's from Bob, send it to the trash. You probably have some Bobs that you want to get it from. Barb? No, because blocking doesn't work too well. But let's just add a rule here. Let's see. What am I getting stuff recently from? Let's see here. Moolah, Club Orchard, geez. Of course, I can't find them now. CHW, this is... See this here, home warranty, okay? So here's a great example. It's from the UK, and I'm sure I'm going to buy a home warranty from them, right? And you'll notice it didn't load the images. That's just to keep you from having to see something that might be what you don't want to see. And on a PC. See there, choice home warranty, blah, 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 blah. All right. Oh, and I could unsubscribe. So it says it's from the UK, and their address is in Edison, New Jersey. And you know how trustworthy New Jersey people are. And if I hover over that, it'll show me what the link is. quietreachcode.blah. Now, I'm not clicking on that. I'm hovering over it, and this shows me what that link is. All right? And if you'll notice, I got to rehover. I hover tough. This code would probably say, hey, that's a valid email address. Let's sell that to the spammers. So I don't click on that because that's a website. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go set up a rule. I'm going to go to rules. And I'm going to say add rule. And because I'm already in that email, it says, if any of the following conditions are met. Well, I don't want it if it says kenspencer.com. If I say, if it's from, and look at this, it automatically filled in the email I'm clicked on. So, let's see if I can expand that. I can't. I'm going to go back to that. So, add rule. If any from contains or matches, well, I don't quiet reach whatever. I know I'm never going to get anything from them. So I say if this rule, this is what was that called? CHW. I'll just name the rule whatever I want. Come in, and then I say if it meets this criteria, move message to the trash. I'll never see it. Now, I had assigned this junk status before, so once my junk folder is active, I won't see it anyway. So junk makes rules a little less likely. But sometimes they get pretty tricky. But anyway, if I hit OK, boom, apply. Now, any more come in from it, it will move them to the trash. Okay? Here was another one I kept getting quite a bit. So that's rules. And it's only within the Mac you're working on. It doesn't go over to iOS or anything else. But we think that rules in the new Mavericks and iOS 7, we know junk's going to go, but I wanted to show you rules because it's really good. there's another one. If we look at this, here's add a rule. And we can say if the send, so look at all these choices. From to, message is addressed to my full name. Message is not addressed to my full name. Sender is in my contacts. So in other words, if someone's not in your address book, put it in some special folder. You don't have to send it to the trash. You can say put it in a filter folder or something. So therefore, you can say, only let me see mail in my inbox that's from people that are in my address book. Now, unfortunately, if they change their address, you're not going to see it, but you could put it in a filtered folder. So there's all kinds of choices here. You know what? If you have a particular thing you need to do, best thing, give me a shout. But the best part is it takes the contents of the click on the email that you want the rule to affect, and it will help you fill in. All right. So let's hit cancel there. So now that one's set for me. It's throughout all your accounts. It's it's not account specific. It's just all incoming. Actually, I wonder if any or all. No, you don't. It's not account specific. It's mail specific. All right. We're going to talk about the toolbar really quick because you guys get it shipped to you with icon only. And Barb had some things missing on her toolbar this morning, so I want to show you how we can adjust the toolbar here. If we go up to Mail, down to Preferences, and go to View, Customize Toolbar, okay? Unfortunately, again, not on the iPad. The only thing, they make it so simple, and it just plain works on this thing. So, Customize Toolbar. Now, look at these additional things I can add. This is the default toolbar. And this is where you can have it display show icon only or icon and text. These are the stock ones. But I can add to it if I want to look for all red. I can say make it red, make it unread, smaller and bigger on fonts if you're viewing it. I can drag that up to my toolbar. I can add the colors. I can say send me my address book. So I'm going to add a couple of these. And how I add it is I simply drag them up, click and drag, and put them up here on the toolbar. The other one I want is address is popular. Let's see, there's address. The other one is add to contacts. Okay, so I just drug them up to the top, right? Now let's show you what they do. So I'm going to hit done. You'll notice if I go, let's go back to Barb's little email. There it is. So here's my smaller and bigger, right? Look at that. Okay. Now, Barb Effenberger, if I want to add her to my address book, I click Add Sender. Okay. If I want to see my address book or my contacts, I click on Address. So let's see how that would work here really quickly, and then we'll show it on the iOS device. I'm going to hit New Message. Oh my gosh, I don't have any words up here. So I'm going to go up and say Customize Toolbar. I'm going to say Icon and Text. And I'm going to say Address. And I'm going to say bigger and smaller. Now I've customized that. So I'm going to say, I'll send this to me. And then I'll call it test. But as Connie asked, what happens if I want to send it out to a bunch of people? You've all gotten the email where it went to 35 people and everybody's names up on the top. And I wonder where all this spam comes from. They harvest them from that. So, normally yours has BCC is off. The first thing I think is important to do is go over to here and click and say BCC. And once you click and turn it on, it will always be on. BCC stands for blind carbon copy or blind courtesy copy. And what that means is, like for instance, when Lisa sends out the EmpowerMac email, you don't see anybody else's email address because she put it in the BCC field. It protects you. It also makes it look like it personally came to you. If I sent it to everyone in this class, you wouldn't know I sent it to anyone else. You'd say, boy, Ken's really sending out, he's spending all this time doing these emails for each individual person. No, I just put it in BCC.
So you want that on?
Yes, just so you can use it if you want. You don't have to put anything in there. So then the question comes up is, do I have to have anything in the to? And you don't. You can always just put things right in the BCC. I used to, when I played roller hockey, I had an email I'd send out to everybody on the team. I could put it in the to, and everybody'd see everybody else's email address. And there was an advantage to that, because that way Bob could tell Kathy that they're riding together, but she couldn't make the game. Her email was up there so they could go back and forth. We were a small group, 12 people. So that was okay. But I'm on the Rancho Cordova Historical Society, and they do this, and I've got to get them to change it, but they put it in there, and there's 65 emails in there. If they put it in BCC, you don't see everybody else's email. The only time you would want all the emails up there is if you want those people to communicate back and forth, or let's think about a family gathering. 8 people in your family, and you want to email them all. Okay, we need to figure out who's bringing what food. So Connie says, I'm going to bring the dessert. She wants everybody up in there because when she hits reply, it goes to everybody so that no one else can say, I beat Connie to it. I'm bringing dessert because it's easier. She replies to everyone saying she's got dessert. So TJ would say, okay, I'm bringing the salad. And you'll notice the last person down the list is the one that brings the meat because it's the most expensive. But that's a case where you would want it up there like that, so that people can reply to everyone on the list or at least have the other person's email address. And that's kind of the exception on a mass email rather than the rule. Bart, you had a question?
So BCC, you populate that with all of the people that you want to send out the email, and then you send out only the individuals that are sent to you.
Right, and if that person tries to hit reply all, it comes back to the person that sent it because they have no access and they can't find out who else you sent it to. Businesses send out these things, okay, we're closing the factory for 1 week over Christmas, and they just put their whole account list up there for everybody to see. And I bet your competitor would really like that email list.
So if you did want them to actually see things, you put it in CC.
CC or regular 2. So the advantage to CC is, let's say Mary Rose and Connie were talking about doing this little thing over there. Connie sends me and says, well, what does this date work for you? And she also copied Mary Rose on it. So that way Mary Rose knows that Connie sent it to me, so she doesn't have to. So that would be a CC. CCs was more like back to the business world where there was an associate or new name for secretary, assistant, administrative assistant, that she would send it out for the main person, but CC her because she's the one that really runs the place and has to know where everything goes. Bart?
Another question, do you need to put it in both fields?
Nope.
You just put it in two?
And you can completely fill BCC and leave CC in 2 blank. Okay?
And it sends out to each one, and they only see their name.
If it's in BCC. If it's in CC, it's the same as in 2, which means you see it all. CC is more what's called a courtesy copy. If I'm sending something to Pete, but I want Lisa to see it, I'll CC Lisa, which she knows then she doesn't need to necessarily reply to it, but that way she gets the information.
Is there a way, like in Outlook, you can move several of your contacts into one field? Can you do
It's
that?
coming up in just a minute. Perfect. That's transitioning into it. So Connie, I think I addressed what you were asking for about BCC. I want to show you one last thing. Oh, we're going to go to the iPad on this. Oh, yeah, I am. Sorry, I just saw that. So in the Apple Mail, you have 2 things here. One's called Photo Browser, and one's called Stationery. I'm going to show you Photo Browser first. So if I click on that, it reaches into my iPhoto library and gives me the option of taking a photo, and I just drag it in there. Wow, that's big though, isn't it? Yeah, that's coming. So I drug that photo from the photo browser, and look at here, image size. Actual size would be huge, and look it up here. Message size is 2.1 megabytes. You cannot send something more than 10, because you might be able to send 20, but they can maybe only receive 10. I say never send anything more than 5. But if I had 3 pictures, it'd be too big. So what I can do is say, well, you know, if they're going to print it, that's one thing. But I can go here and say small or medium. There you go. That's plenty big for most people. It was a blurry photo, so that's not a problem with this. Now, everybody always says, but Ken, I see the picture. And when I get pictures from everybody or in there on a PC, it's supposed to be an attachment. Trust me, it is an attachment. But Mac says, why would you see that little name with a little blue line under it when I can show you what the picture really is? So they do it. So we'll get rid of that by simply hitting the backspace. And stationery. Stationery is very cool, and it's built in. Don't count on everyone being able to see the stationery when you send it to them. But most of them can these days. Yeah, and most PCs will too, but there's just, I always, if it's not 100%, I won't say it is. So you can make your favorites by simply dragging a stationery up to favorites, if there's ones you like. But let's take photos. This will kind of kill kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I'm going to get in this one stationery right here. And look at that. There it found some stuff to fill in. Yeah, and it's not strictly like a template, but yeah, that's a great example. So what I can do here is, if I click on this and I go over here and I actually want this photo here, I'll drag it to right there. And if I want this photo, I'll put that there. And this one there. Now you'll notice these are small versions of those photos, so I don't have a problem with size. This is really how it is. And then I just simply edit this text. Class demo. And that'll get sent, and it looks just like it. And see, it filled in my signature stuff already, but it didn't put my little icon in my signature because it's stationary. But it took my information from my signature. If I didn't have my signature on for that account, it wouldn't do it. Oh, I can just delete them too. I can just highlight it and delete them. I can delete text.
Can PCs see that exactly like that?
I'm sorry?
Can PCs?
Most of them can, especially in the newer ones, but in older ones there might be some issues with it. But the nice thing is whatever happens, they'll still see it, the text for sure, and they'll see the pictures as attachments. They may not see it in this great form, but more than likely they can. This is sent as like HTML, which is essentially the same thing as viewing it on a website. Okay? So you can play with those. You can make stationery. No, unfortunately, you can't modify them. You can just modify your text and everything else. This is just a quick little deal. If you really want to do something fancy, you'd have come to Paige's class yesterday, made your own little thing, and you can mail that to somebody. Okay, go ahead, TD. TJ.
I don't have a stationary iPhone. So,
Wow. Let me check on that. Or you can email me that, and I'll see what the answer is. That's interesting. I didn't know they had to turn it on or up yet. Well, you can't send because you're not making any mail. You're in your mailbox. Here, I'll show you. Hang on. So, 2 good points. So I'm going to hit that and say don't save. You can't send from this because we're in it. We have to hit new message. Do you have a new message button? Then we really need to customize your toolbar, don't we? Yeah. So we will customize your toolbar. Well, you know what? Yeah. So So we just had a little bit of a hiccup here. So what happens, sometimes you have to quit it and restart it. Hopefully it'll work. She didn't have a new message, and we could have forced you to use the keyboard icon. All right, let's switch to the iOS device. And if we go to Mail and we go to New Message, you'll notice the 2 we would fill in, but if you want BCC here, you tap. Remember where we tapped earlier on our address and it opened up the accordion view? There is your BCC. Okay? And your CC also. They're both hidden because most of the time you would just hit 2. All right?
You can talk about how to create groups.
That's when we go to contacts, which is next. Okay. So, this is, you have to tap on it. Oh, and I want to show you one other button back on the Mac, okay? Does everyone have, and click on a new message. Oh, actually, let me look here. New message. Yeah, you should have a format button. Do you have a format button over where the photo browser was? Who doesn't have a format button? Okay. Go up to View, Customize Toolbar. Yeah. Oh, you have it already there. You've already, that is it. That's what it is. Okay. Go up to View, Customize Toolbar. And yeah, hit the format. It's a big A. Drag it up to your menu bar. And what format does is for when you're composing a message. you simply hit Format, and what it does is it brings you this where you can change the text color, you can change the font and things like that. Bart, make sure you have Format up at the very top. It's a large A. So you see basically it toggles that little, look on the screen, you'll see it toggles that on and off. Okay? That's actually fairly new in Mail. That hasn't been there for a long time. Okay? Now we're going to go to Contacts. But you know what? Before we go to Contacts, I sent myself an email. Here is the email I sent. I send myself email all the time because I want to feel important. So I was bored at, well, this one says 10 a.m. No, it's 6:07 this morning, okay? I sent myself this email. And it says, Party of the Century. And the password is Open Sesame. And then it's got an address down there. Well, let's pretend that I don't know me. And I want to add this person to my address book. Or Contacts, as it's called now. I could go up to Message and say, Add sender to Contacts. It used to be called Address Book. In Mountain Lion, it became Contacts to coincide with the iPad. And I'm going to show you this on the iPad also. I can say Add sender to Contacts. But don't do that, because I'm going to do it a little different way. I'm going to hover my cursor. I'm not clicking anything, but I hover my cursor over this, and I get this little thing, and it's called a data detector. So if I click on this, it comes up and says, well, here's the information. Do I want to create a new contact from that information or add to an existing contact? I'm going to make a new contact just for today. New contact. But I want to call it Test Class. Because the name that showed up wasn't right, but it's got all this other information, right? So, create. Now, we're all used to using the old paper address book and everything else. And if it's this easy to put people in your address book or contacts, wouldn't it be the best? It makes it easy. Let's show the same thing on an iPad. I have the same email. And 6:07 a.m. it was. Hopefully I didn't delete it. Oh, great. Let's go in. I know it's in this one. Did I? Come on here. What did I send it to? To AHA Merchandising. God, I probably got in my spam myself. Okay, I'm going to forward this to AHA. All right, off it goes. We've got some spotty internet going on, you know. That's what some of this is. So it's much better than it was yesterday, I'll tell you that. Well, actually, here I am on the iOS device. So if I want to find something that was sent to me, look up here at this search window where the little magnifying glass is. So I'm going to say, did AHA, actually it was Ken Spencer sent it, I think. Look for messages from Ken Spencer. Oh, look at that. I started typing in Ken. Oh, it hadn't sent. The other one just sent. But here it is, Party of the Century, and it shows up on my iPad. It was there all along. I used the little search thing in the left, so let's go back over that. I can search right here for Ken Spencer. Oh, and look at that, it shows from Ken Spencer. But the title of it's Party, so why don't I do this? I'm going to hit Subject, and type in party. And look at that, party of the century shows up. Okay? Let me make this a little bigger. Sorry. Whoa! Tiger. We have all these other devices I'm going to fix at lunch that I've made this. All right. Thank you. Okay, so I did that search up there. So now I'm on my iPad, and I see there's an address. I'm going to put the keyboard down, and if I press on this, I press and hold, and it says Add to Contacts. Bart?
One thing that moves too, where it says from, that has a blue highlight at the very top of your
Uh-huh.
you press that.
Yep, another place to say Add to Sender. Very good point.
Add to contact.
Well, I'm sorry, not Add to Sender. Add to Contacts.
Create contact.
Here, I'll show you that. So, Bart, and the same applies on your Apple, on your Mac. If I tap on that, first of all, a lot of times it'll show me who it's from, and then I can add to contacts. Or I can share the contact with someone, send a message, etc. Okay? So it's add to contacts up there. But this is the same data detector we just had. So I'm going to press and hold on the address, and it says add to contacts. And then it says, oh, do you want all this information in there? And then I can either create a new contact or add to an existing. We already added it, right? So I'm not going to... Actually, we'll call this test 2. Create a new contact. And this is test 2 class. Done. So now, on the iPad, the iPhone, or the Mac, it's super easy to add things to your contacts. Hopefully they put their address in like this. I'm going to tease you for what's happening after lunch. Look up there. There's a date there, right? Look what happens when I tap the date. Create event or show in calendar. In the one I sent, notice how there's a blue line, a hyperlink under there? Let's see what that looks like on our Mac. I move my cursor over the data detector, and when I click on it, look at that, it's going to show me my calendar. And it's going to, oh, I'm going to adjust that because it's party of the century. I misspelled it because it was 6 in the morning. And I'm going to say add to calendar. We're going to go over this in the calendar class afterwards, but I want to show you the tease here. We just made that event in our calendar, right? July 12th it was. So let me go to July 12th. And there it is, party of the century, right? I'm going to double click. And since I made it from mail, I can say show in mail. And when I'm heading to the party that night, I can say, oh, that's right, there was the password, Open Sesame. So let's go back over that. We had an email. We went to here and said, add to calendar. And because we added it to the calendar, it will track back to the email. What if this was a map, or in this case, it had the password, Open Sesame? It's a month from now, so you wouldn't remember that it was Open Sesame, so this way you can get back to that mail. On the iPad, you can do the same thing. Oops, mail. It's a data detector, so I can create the event or simply show it in calendar, okay? So there it is, party of the century, and I click on that, edit. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't link back too easily, but look at this, it says message right here. If it works right. Now, iOS 7, when you click there, it'll bring you to back to the mail, okay? So you can put a note in, say Open Sesame. But I like for the Mac, it does that. So the nice thing is now you have your paper black book has gone away and your calendar goes away. Let's go back to Mail. I'm in Mail and someone just sent this to me and I can press and hold and say Open in Maps. Got the address right there. I've been known to email myself a location and then do it that way. But let's take it one step further. Since we're going to Contacts, okay? Contacts, on the iOS device, I simply tap Contacts. And what was the first name of what we called these two things? What was the name? Test, right? So I type in Test. Oh, and look at this. We've got Test 2 and Test Class. So I'm going to hit Test Class. That got entered from the Mac, didn't it? Test 2 got entered from this. So there we go. I can send a message. I can FaceTime. I can add more information to this. How do I add more information? I hit Edit. Boom. Test Class from the Mac. Okay? Then I hit Done, and it goes out of Edit. I can always add notes. So if I tap Notes, are you guys in Contacts, or do I need to go back over a little bit? You guys in Contacts? I can always add notes without having to hit Edit. So this is a test. Boom. Notes will always get added in there. Okay? Same thing when we go to the Mac. Contacts in the Mac. We're going to search for test. Here's test 2. Here's the other one. There's all the information. Remember that got entered, test 2 got entered from the iPad email, right? So I can go over here and I can click on Home and I can say map this address and watch what happens. But even better than that would be on the iOS device. And by the way, in Mavericks in the fall, you won't use Google Maps anymore, you'll use Apple Maps, which is good. Our internet's really slow, so we're going to, obviously you can see that it pulls out. Actually, it's heading right to my house right there. So let's go back to the iOS device. And when I tap on the address, right here, I tap on that address, it opens it up in Maps. And again, I'm showing it on the iPad. It's the same on the iPhone. So now, the beauty of putting it in like that is, who here, does most everybody have Siri? Who doesn't have Siri besides that one? You don't have Siri, you don't have Siri. Okay, so if you have an iPad 2, it'll speak the directions to you, or it'll do the directions, but it won't speak them to Siri. But if I go here and I press directions, and I want to go from current location to there, I hit route. And it gives me some choices. And I'm going to take Route 1 right down Sunrise Boulevard, so I'll press Start.
Starting route to Nouveau Way. Head northeast on Encinal Avenue.
Encinal, probably. Oh, good. It's taking us through the golf course, it looks like. Oh, no, that's actually the loop on the parking lot. That's what that is. So, right from... So, let's talk about how hard that was. Somebody sent me an email with an address in it. I could have gone right to Maps from there, but since it's somebody I want in my contacts, I said Add to Contacts. And once it's in Contacts, I can simply hit it and say, let's go there. But it's a little easier than that on an iOS device. I'm going to tap that. By the way, if you tap the screen, it'll come up with your ETA, how far it is, and how much farther you have to go. I'm going to hit End. So, the name of the person was Test, right? So on your iOS device, you have everywhere you have a little search window and a magnifying glass. I'm going to tap that search window and delete what I have by hitting the X. Gone. So the guy's name was Test. T-E-S-T. It's looking inside my contacts for the name Test. And if I press Test, it brings up that person's address from my contacts. Okay? Let's do Pete. Pete Losey. Boom. I just typed search for Pete and it comes up. Okay? It's all about your contacts and managing your contacts. So let's go into contacts and we're going to talk about groups. So, you can't make groups yet on an iOS device. We thought that would come in iOS 6, but it didn't. We think it will in 7. But if you make groups on the Mac or in Outlook, the groups will come over and work on the iOS device. So, let's talk about groups. First, I'm going to go now in your everybody on your Mac in your contacts. Down at the bottom, you've got 3 ways to look at your contacts. One with the little sidebar out to the left, one with it closed, open, closed. And the last one is just the card itself, okay? So this to me is the preferred because I want to see what my groups are. And I have these, actually, believe it or not, this goes back to my Sony Ericsson phone, which has come over to my Macs from years and years and years. Those are the numbers I had that I had to sync with my Z520A, which is funny. So I'm going to make a new group. I'm going to come down here and hit the plus sign. Oh, I'm sorry. Good job, Ken. You don't hit the plus sign down there because, well, that's adding a new person. We need to add a new, well, that's how we would add a new person. Now, it gives you the hint on what it wants. It wants the first name. So this will be test 3 for class. And you simply hit your tab and go through it. Now, when it gets to a phone number, you do not have to put the punctuation in. You just simply type 916-213-4596. Okay? Same applies on the iOS device. We'll go into it in a second. But now, I hit the tab and watch the number format itself. Boom. But let's say that's a home phone and not a mobile. Boom. I just click on this and change it to what I want to call it. Now, it's important that if the person has an iPhone, select iPhone as their mobile device because of all the features iPhone to iPhone offer, like iMessage. It doesn't have to be selected, but it helps. Down through, you can enter the rest of the data. On an iOS device, you go here, you hit the plus, and you'll notice it's the same look and the same feel. You just start filling things in. Okay? Did I lose everybody? Or go ahead, Bart.
You can also make custom.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have time to do custom. Basically, when you get that pull-down menu at the bottom, right here, like for mobile phone, excuse me, I can add a custom label like spouse's wife's best friend number. Something like that. You can add a custom field. Don't go crazy with it because it shows up on all of them, but it can be effective. You could do it like secondary number, or you can even add like a child name or something. If you don't want to make a contact for the other person, but they are coincided with that, you can do custom labels on anything. So I'll hit cancel on that. Cancel.
And can you also directly while you're at that person create an relation to you?
That's not today. That's a Siri class. We're not going to have time to go into that with Siri. So back to the Mac. Now, what I want to do is create a new group. File, new group. Okay? It could be Bridge Club. It could be Seroptimist. It could be other artists. It could be Maquettes. It could be anything. So I'm going to create a new group, and ironically, we'll call it Test. Now you notice I created it. I haven't touched anything. It's alphabetically sorted, and it says Untitled. Since it's already highlighted, I'm just going to call it. I'm going to call it Group Test, and I'll show. Well, actually, I'm going to call it Regular Test. Test Group. There we go. And I'll show you why in a second. So I've called this Test Group, okay? Now, how do I get people into my test group? Do I send them emails? Do I do this? I simply go up to all contacts, and I'm going to put people that are my test, anybody that comes up on test. So I'm going to grab this test, drag it to test group. I'm going to grab this test. Oops, you got to click and hold. There's a bit of a delay. Click and hold, grab it to test group. So you guys can make all the groups you want. Now it doesn't duplicate your item. So I have all three of these things in my test group. Now I clicked on test group, right? If I go back to all contacts, and if I'm not sure if that person's in the group, I click on it and I drag it to the group, and it won't go in there. So it won't duplicate it. Okay? So let's make a group. You guys haven't made groups yet? Let's do a group, because this is really critical. You can't make it on the iPad, but if you make it on the PC or Mac, you can bring it in. But I think in iOS 7 you'll be able to make it. It'll show up over here. In a few minutes you'll see test group on the iPad. Okay, are you in contacts? Go up to File. Come down to New Group. Ooh, Jesus, 1 o'clock. All right, so do New Group from there, and you drag people into it. But let me show you the two pieces I wanted to get to on this. So if I go to make a new message, and I type in test, you'll notice not just people, but now my test group comes up, and when I click on test group, it fills in the people from the test group. On the iOS device, if I go to Mail, and I go to New Message, and I type test, oh, you know what? It hasn't synced over here yet. I'll bet. Let me see. There's probably, again, the delay. So let's go to Groups. Test group got here. Okay. So let me quit Mail. See if it'll come up now, because it's supposed to fill in. As in the past. Cancel. Delete draft. New message. It's not doing it yet. Let me make, you know what? When I say yet, let's see, Z520. Oh, you know, it's not even supported that way. I apologize. It's not supported. You can view them in contacts, but Mail doesn't use it. I thought it did. That's what I get for using a beta sometimes. So if we go to contacts over here, though, on your iOS device, you'll notice test group showed up because it's synced via the cloud. Test group is right there. Now, I hit the red banner, and that puts me back into here. Or I can select specific groups. If I tap on test group, oops, I'm sorry. I can turn all contacts on, all contacts off, come down and say, just show me test group. And now there's my 3 test items. From here, I could email them, but it's, yeah, I swear, wasn't that in 5? I can't believe they took it out. Anyway, so it's somewhat supported here. I apologize for that. All right. That was contacts. We didn't get into Safari, but basically in Safari, the big thing is the back and forth and the autofill. The important thing in Safari is go into your contacts, and you have a thing called a My Card. And you want to go to the My Card, and you'll notice it has, oops, I've got to be in all contacts. Oh, delay. Go to My Card, and you'll notice the silhouette is the My Card. And so if you go into Safari and you go to Amazon.com for the first time, and all of a sudden your address is all filled in, you're going, wow, how did that happen? How did they know my address? If you go to some new website and it fills in your address automatically for you, it's not that they knew it. Safari reaches into your contacts and uses your address so you don't have to enter that stuff. So don't be alarmed, but it's also a good reason to make sure that you have contacts set up in there. All right? For those of you that are leaving, the reason you want to have your contacts done real well is you can say, send Sean Bogwell an email.
Which email address for Sean Bogwell? Home. What's the subject of the email?
Just testing Siri.
What would you like your email to say?
Thanks! Exclamation mark.
Here's your message to Sean Bogwell. Ready to send it?
Send it. So because
Okay.
he's in my address book,
I'll send
it pulled him up with Siri. I could say call, I could say text. So this is incentive to keep your contacts going and up to date. The last thing, many of us have duplicates. It's only on the Mac. Well, no, you get duplicates on everything. But there's one up here that says look for duplicates. And run it a few times, and it will get rid of your duplicates. A lot of times, it will stop at like 2 or 3, and every time you do it, it'll say there's 2 or 3. Just let it be there. So I'm just going to say merge my duplicate cards. Boom, done. Might have been the 2 test cards, probably, who knows. So, card, go up to card. And you have to do it a couple times. It's either going to then say you have no more duplicates, or it's going to say, I found 2, I found 2, and then I found 2, I found 2. So what happens is it's stuck, and it just doesn't do those last 2. Obviously, if you have different spellings for last names, you need to correct that, and it'll do all of that stuff. I need to turn recording off, and that's it. It is lunchtime, everyone. I'm going to go in, so after the break, it's, or after lunch, it's reminders, calendar, and notes. Yeah, I did pretty much. There wasn't much for Safari. We didn't have time.
You're kidding. I sat here with a full bladder for 2.5 hours and you did Safari when I went to the bathroom.
It was that quick. Well, no, it was only about the auto. You were back. It was the autofill on Amazon.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. Well, no, there was more, but it just